election was due
Be
when?
safe,
November.
look after yourself, and look after one
You've
another.
been flying around about it. Ignorance is bliss, right? That's
They didn't get pulled over or anything.
Just like
WWDB,
I didn't
Philadelphia,
even know. That's my
the
husband's
Toole Station.
responsibility.
Good afternoon, Greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole, she's Sarah Timon, she's Stacy Mitchell, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we've got a lot to cover today. We've got a Fed meeting coming up. We've got a White House speech that may very well be going on right now about the Biden administration's plan for housing. And first, we're going to talk about the NAR $418 million lawsuit settlement to end the commission lawsuit for some people. If you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the bell for notifications to stay up to date, and if you want to schedule a call with one of these two ladies to talk about your real estate needs and how all this might affect you, make sure to click the link in the comments. So last Friday, breaking news from the New York Times. They broke the story. It was about 9:30 in the morning that the National Association of Realtors agreed to a landmark settlement with all these industry lawsuits, paying $418 million in damages and agreeing to sweeping changes in the U.S. commission structure. The settlement has since leaked. It's been all over the news, social media, you name it, it's there. And there's a couple key changes that we can take from this right now. Now, here's the thing. You got to be careful what you're reading right now, because some of these headlines, like New York Times said, buyers no longer pay 6% fees. Last time I checked, they never paid 6% fees. So, and the average commission was less than that in 2023. So be very careful what you're reading for the consumers that are out there. Here's the material changes we know about right now. And I don't think anyone still really knows what's going on, to be very clear, although there have been a lot of questions. We'll talk about this. One is that compensation is going to be coming off the MLSs across the country, meaning sellers can no longer offer out, they can offer out a fee, but they can't publish it on the MLS. That's number one. Number two, buyer agency agreements need to be signed before showing a house. That's going to be a big change. And there were some brokerages that are covered, and there's a lot of brokerages that are not covered in this settlement. And there could be more settlement monies due based on that. So we got a lot to unpack here. Ladies, we've talked about this at length. I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing me talk about it because we work together. What do you think about all this? What kind of client questions are you getting from consumers right now? How are you dealing with it? There's a lot to react to here.
It's been like a whirlwind all weekend.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right about the headlines. There is such bad information out there. And the other place where I'm finding a lot of bad information is, surprise, surprise, on these realtor Facebook pages.
Oh,
Like
really?
realtor masterminds and these other realtor pages. I mean, your head would explode, Tom, if you read some of this stuff.
I've seen some samplings. Yeah, it's a little out of control.
Crazy. And every once in a while you'll see a comment from, an intelligent agent that says, the only thing right now that we know is that the commissions can't be advertised on the MLS. They have to come off the MLS, and the buyer agency has to be signed before showings. That's it.
Right.
That's what we know. But the stuff that's swirling around out there, it's, oh my gosh, it's very damaging because there's so many rumors. But it's been an interesting 72 hours.
Yeah, it's it has definitely come up. I feel like this is something that I feel like with a lot of these different commission lawsuits and stuff, just individuals would, maybe they caught wind of some of it, but I feel like this headline was more grabbing than some of the other ones. And I think what's important to keep in mind here, is just work with what we know, and there's very little that is solid fact at this point. We've got time to get the strategies in place and to kind of ease people, into what's going on. But I think the worst thing to do right now would be to just run around like a chicken with your head cut off and panic.
Exactly. And that's what's going on right now. It's panic.
You know, that's a great point, Sarah. And I liken this to what happened when real estate got shut down, where everyone was kind of jumping on. You're talking about like masterminds, and there's all sorts of webinars happening now. I'm full transparency. We're putting together a live YouTube show tomorrow at 3:30 with the folks on the Knowledge Brokers podcast, Byron Lazine and Lisa Chinati. And we're going to be talking about what agents should be doing, but it's really like tactical stuff. Sarah, you mentioned it. You got to focus on your business right now, number one. It's so easy to get off of this and start changing things. Well, none of these changes are going to happen until mid-July. So that's really important to understand. And there's still going to be people that buy and sell properties. I don't care what anyone says. So the worst thing you can do is not focus on your business over the next 3-4 months while this all gets sorted out. I think that's great advice, Sarah. I mean, but at the same time, there's people that are freaking out. You're talking about like, people are talking out of their, whatever you're going to say. I would say something else here, but we're on the radio. There's no logic behind it, and there's a lot of bad information. So, you're going to get some people that say this is what you need to do. So I've spoken to the chairman at Tri-County. I've spoken to the broker of our firm. I've spoken to some high-level people in corporate structures, and I've spoken to attorneys. And I've gotten different answers from everybody about what to do. So that kind of tells you that they're still interpreting this, because the problem is you got this big, long legal opinion. Have you guys ever read a legal opinion or like a legal suit settlement?
I know personally I could not get through one, I'm sure.
I'm sure I've tried to start one.
Yeah. They're very confusing, right? I mean, I sat down with Brian, our sales manager, yesterday, and we were prepping for the session we ran. I thought was hopefully you got some value out of it. You were there. It was like, here's what we know right now, and here's all the stuff we don't know, and here's what you need to focus on. And there's like, just reading that document is so confusing, and a lot of agents are trying to interpret this, but most agents barely got out of high school, let alone have a legal degree. So I don't think that's a good use of your time, reading a 72-page document or however long it is. So I think that's one challenge here. And then secondly, I mean, I think it's more how do you answer the questions for consumers right now is going to be the big thing, because I've had sellers ask me, what does this mean? I'm sure you guys have had buyers ask you what it means. We've had buyer consults in the office, which is like a buyer meeting, a strategy session, laughing about this, saying this is stupid, doesn't make any sense. I'm expecting you to work for free. I'm not going to do that. So there's going to be some stuff here to talk through, but I would argue that these changes, good agents were already doing these things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think there was a laziness that happened in the market because I'm going to win on personality, not on education, and that's where a lot of agents I think could be in a lot of trouble, especially with working with buyers and having to get them to sign an agreement before you show them a house, even though that's exactly how listings work.
Now, do you think that there will be some level of, over the next couple of months here, because if these changes are expected to go into effect mid-July, of not, I don't want to say like pressuring buyers to get under contract and whatnot before then, but do you think there'll be some type of push for you better get in now, like almost like fearing people into it, like if you better get under contract now, or things could be different come July. I don't know. I'm not sure if that would
be paying higher fees or some
right,
kind of stuff.
Right.
That could be.
Well, what I know is when we went through the pandemic, there was a lot of people working illegally in Pennsylvania, showing houses and doing all the stuff the state said you couldn't do. Mm-hmm. So yes, that's definitely going to happen. I don't think there's any question here. And that's where, a good agent, in my view, has got to get the word out and really educate their folks, and maybe just even ask the question, has anyone taken the time to review the new laws that are taking effect later in the year that are going to affect the home buying and selling process with you? And I'd be bringing like copies of these documents with me. We talked about this yesterday. Like, instead of just telling them what's going on, some agents are not going to do. I mean, you guys work with real. I mean, would you expect anything less? Like,
no.
I'm hoping this kind of cleanses the industry from this kind of behavior, because there's always people operating on the other side of the line, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be. I mean, we have renewal at the end of May for our
Great
licenses.
Point.
So this is going to be a big purge. That's what I speculate, because the timing is right.
Yeah.
So people that have been weighing or still trying to get their continuing education, they'll be, I'm done, I'm out, I'll just finish till the end of May and just wrap it up.
Yeah.
I really think we're going to see a lot of that.
Okay.
And then, and for some of the part-timers,
mm-hmm.
who maybe sell 1 or 2 homes a year, I think it just might be, too much of a challenge. And there's a lot of people like retirement age that might be stepping back too.
Sure.
So the great purge is going to happen as far as real estate agents, but you have to know how to explain this. And I think from the very beginning, there's a lot of agents out there that they were running around saying that buyers, you're doing the service for free.
Mhm.
I'm going to help you buy this house for free. You don't owe
Right.
me anything, blah, blah, blah. And not taking the time to actually explain that
Mhm.
it's not free.
Right.
The sellers are
Paying
paying commission on your behalf
Mm-hmm.
at settlement. So I think that really needs to be explained very concisely and clearly so that there's a clear understanding. Services are not free. So
Right.
whether you have your representation with an agent, an attorney, which can you imagine that?
Yes, I can, because we've dealt with these people, and they screw the deal up for their clients.
Well, try getting a hold of an attorney when you have an offer deadline at
Mhm.
Sunday, at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Plus, you have to be able to access the property to see it. So, what are attorneys going to let them in the door? So, and wow, I forget my other point right out of my head. Sorry.
It's my fault. I interrupted.
No, it's not. It's my brain's fault. But I think that you really need to be able to understand the whole situation and how to explain that properly to your clients and know your value, because you're going to have to explain your value.
Right.
What do we do? What is it that we bring?
Right.
To help this transaction go along? And not only explain it to buyers, you have to explain it to your sellers.
Right.
I had a conversation with a seller over the weekend, and it was like a role play,
Yeah.
back and forth of different situations, and
Yeah.
how's this firm work and how does that firm work, and
Mhm.
why I'm not going to have to pay the other side commission. Why do
Mhm.
I have to? So you have to be able to answer that.
Right.
You're going to have limited amounts of buyers coming if you don't offer.
Right.
And you ensure a smooth transaction if you do have an agent working on the other side.
Right.
That's not always a guarantee.
Right.
But
yeah,
if you do have an agent working on the other side, then you are likely to have a more smooth transaction.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I think what you said there, Stacy, is that the part-time agent, right? That person should be out of business. I think that's actually a big challenge why this even came about in the first place, because we obviously are looking to grow our team. We talk to people, hey, I can do this part-time. And I said, you know what? There's no real estate class, Sarah, that is called crushing it part-time in real estate. There's no coaching program that says crushing it part-time. And
Right.
then it's, well, I'll work 40 hours in my other job, and then I'll do this nights and weekends. Well, what happens when your
Oh my
client needs to
gosh.
get in touch with you at 3 o'clock in the afternoon
Right.
on a Tuesday?
Yeah.
When you're supposed to be working, right? And this is the challenge, because a part-time practitioner should not be paid the same as a full-time practitioner. But that's what was happening. So I can see how this evolved to where we are. And then when you think about, like a buyer, I mean, how many we've seen, and I would even put this on the listing side, where just things are mishandled and it costs people money all the time. And it's just watching it play out is very unfortunate. So to me, these changes, I like the idea of meeting with someone before you work with them. I mean, think how many times you ladies, and it's happened to me, a buyer just decides they don't want to work with you anymore, and there's no contract in place, and they buy something else, and you spent tons of time with that person. How many times did that happen to you? I can count on more than 2 hands.
Yep.
Right?
Plenty.
Now, that person probably wouldn't have worked with you from the beginning if you would have sat down and met with them, and they obviously didn't see value for whatever reason. Could be their own story, could be something that I've done in the past, because that's happened to me. There could be a lot of reasons behind that. So now, all of a sudden, you've got a much clearer playing field about the rules of engagement for, just like a listing. You can't just list a house
Right.
without a contract. I've seen agents do this, by the way, where they put the home on the market without having a listing contract.
Wow.
Yes, this is what happens. I mean, this is real life. I'll tell you the name after the show.
Okay.
You might know this person. So you can't do that with a listing. So what's the difference here? And this also gives the buyer clarity on what they're getting, like what the fees are going to be and what the closing costs are. Because when you enter into an agency agreement, you have to give a summary in Pennsylvania of the closing costs. So this could be a lift for people that take this the right way. Now, some agents are freaking out because they're saying, well, I don't know how to earn their loyalty. And my response would be, and you heard me say this yesterday, you better work on your appointment and your interview skills, because every day is going to be a job interview by now. Showing up at the office in jeans and a t-shirt on a Tuesday and a buyer wants to come in, well, you better have time to go get changed and be ready.
Well, I mean, I think one thing that will also be helpful here is when this is the new standard, it's not a situation of like, well, this other agent, like assuming that everybody plays by the rules as they should. You know, this agent's, you know, they're not making me sign anything. Why should I sign something with you? Blah, blah, blah. Like if this is the new, like, this is the standard, then being able to deliver that and answer follow-up questions, like it's not a situation of like, well, you know, okay, we'll give it a little bit of time and then see what happens. Like, no, if you want to go see homes, this is how this needs to be in place.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a positive.
Yeah.
Actually.
Right.
There's a lot of buyers who've been. I mean, we've had it happen, Sarah. They'll call you and you go out a couple of times.
Oh, we bought a house, Stacy.
Right. And
Yep.
you know, they're just using you to open
Mhm.
up the door if their cousin agent is out of town or whatnot. There's
Yeah.
lots of that. So having that buyer's agency contract in place, I really like that idea.
Yeah.
I think that it is a loyalty, it is a commitment on both sides.
Mhm.
If I commit to work with you and you're committing to work with me,
Mhm.
then that, you know, we'll uphold both sides of this agreement here and
Right.
get you a house.
Right.
But, you know, if you're gonna go around the 15 other agents,
Mm-hmm.
as we've seen in the past couple of years,
Yeah.
you know, maybe this will help slow the market a little bit because you do have these people that fly around on the weekends and just, you know, use any agent to get indoors and throw
Mhm.
out offers, whatever. But I think that you have to explain also to clients what happens if they sign multiple buyer agency contracts. Like you have to take this seriously. You're
Right.
signing a contract, yes, we're building a relationship here, but if you go ahead and do that with somebody else, you know, you could potentially be held responsible for paying a couple of
Right.
fees here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it could be very costly.
Well, and if your only value is I'm opening a door for you, then you shouldn't sign a contract with that person. I think that's kind of the point. I mean, you know, this is going to be a job interview. Now, the flip side is, I'm imagining we're going to see people like, hey, Sarah, I know you and Eric want to go look at some homes, so why don't we? I can't show you these homes without having a contract. So why don't we give it a week and see how it
Yeah.
goes, and you can see how I work, and then if you feel good, we can extend it out a little more. And I think you're going to have to be flexible and be willing to pivot there.
Yeah.
So buyers know exactly what's going on, and you also like buyer agents are going to need to know the paperwork inside and out. You need to know how to explain it. It can't be one of these things where I'll send it to you electronically. That's not going to work. You have to be able to explain this in person. You might be meeting them at the house and saying, hey, before we go in, we've got to sign this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me walk you through this real quickly and be ready to give that driveway consult in a whole new way. So there's a lot of things to unpack here, and you know it's going to be developed as this happens, because this was not something a lot of people talked about with this settlement, having a buyer agency contract in place beforehand. Compensation coming off the MLS, that's going to create a lot of issues. I'm wondering how it gets communicated. My nightmare scenario is you list a home. How many showings do you have on your listings over the weekend, Stacy?
Quite a bit.
Okay, what about you? You had a new listing that launched, so
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
imagine fielding calls. Let's say you get 50 showings scheduled on a listing, not unheard of. You get 50 phone calls of, are you cooperating and what's the percentage you're paying out?
Right.
Now you are a receptionist.
Right.
That is not your highest and best use of time. And this settlement is not going to allow certain things to circumvent the MLS. So there's going to have to be systems in place that are developed that make this easy to communicate. I don't know all the answers. Even some of the things we kind of spitballed yesterday, from reading this further, that's not going to fly based on the terms of the settlement. So it's great to have an idea, but like you said, Stacy, just because you read it once and you think you have an idea, you've really got to vet this out. So that's going to be a challenge here. The other thing I was shocked about is that they have this settlement, right, for $418 million. And we know that RE/MAX settled, KW settled, Anywhere settled. Berkshire Hathaway. So the plaintiffs of the Sitzer Burnett case are seeking $4.7 billion from Home Services right now. It's way more than anybody else settled for. And I think what they're doing is targeting Warren Buffett and thinking that they can get that money out of them. And there's also 94 brokerages that are not in this settlement, including Compass, EXP, Redfin, Howard Hanna, and more. And they have a couple options. They can either choose to option one, which is make a deposit within 120 days equal to 0.25%, so 0.0025 multiplied by their average annual transaction volume into a settlement escrow account opened by the plaintiffs, or they can show they're unable to afford a deposit of that size and can go into a non-binding mediation within 110 days following the federal court's preliminary approval of the settlement. So I'm really happy we are affiliated with REMAX right now because we don't have to deal with this. We were one of the first people to settle. That to me is a good thing. And what also is not covered, our MLS is not owned by realtor associations. They have a similar deposit they've got to pay. So this isn't like a done deal. It's there's a lot lot to unpack here. So what do you think about NAR? I mean, I'm a little surprised it even got this far. They really screwed this up. This might be one of the worst we were totally let down by our trade association, and there's no guidance here either. I heard from the New York Times, and I was on a podcast talking about this before we heard anything about NAR on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not this is just something we do you know where I'm at Friday at 10 o'clock, ladies. You know where you can find me. This is not anything unusual. I'm just shocked that it even got this far. I mean, for a trade association to go through 5 different leaders during this time frame, being ousted for alleged sexual harassment, blackmail, just handling this poorly in terms of the case, that's what they're focused on. It's very disappointing what they've done to their members here. And I feel like our dues are probably going to go up.
What?
if we have to be members. I mean, ideally, what I would like to see is a de-affiliation of the MLS and NAR. I mean, that's what you want.
I think that should be part of this.
Yeah.
I really do. Or, we should not have to be affiliated with this organization that completely dropped the ball and let everybody down.
Right.
They were so, I don't know what they were focused on, intercompany things that were going on.
Keeping their jobs and keeping their paychecks. That's what they were focused on.
Right. And
I know you're not going to say that. I will.
So it's so disappointing because they're supposed to be representing us, and we have to pay for that.
Right.
We're forced to, which
Right.
is even more frustrating. So I think decoupling that is first and foremost, and I think there's going to be a big push with the agents that have to be part of that organization to not have to be part of it anymore.
Right, I would agree with that. And I think that the way that things have played out over the past, year here is, I think very good, a very good standing place to be able to sit there and say this is all the reasons why, it's just that we don't want to pay these fees or no, in every case here over the past year, you've dropped the ball, things haven't been handled well, you have not represented us properly, and why should I have to pay you for that? And I feel like people 100%. Will kind of stand together because of how poorly stuff was handled.
I agree. The other interesting thing that I was reading on these group chats or sites.
You might need to lay off of these. It's like an addiction, Stacey.
Well, it's mind blowing. The information. I'm like, oh my gosh. They were saying, go to a smaller broker. They won't be sued. And I'm like, where are these people coming up with this bad advice?
Right.
So it just, and what you just stated, Tom, that they have to put 0.0025% of their earnings into an escrow within a certain period of time. Well, that could take some of these smaller brokers out.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
So I think that it is going to be big changes coming along all the way across the board. But as far as, we do business right now, it's still the same.
Right. Well, hopefully something, just kind of going off when we were talking before about it being a time waster for when you get a listing, all of these calls that come in. As a listing agent, you already typically get a lot of phone calls from a lot of agents, and that's maybe after they've seen the property and they have an interested client. This would be that, agents are going to need to have that question answered prior to showing their clients this property so that they can properly prep for, all right, if we like this and we want to move forward, this is how the numbers are going to play.
I agree with that. You have to, and you want to get that disclosure. So you're absolutely right.
Right. So if you're getting all of those calls from every single person that's going to show it, and then more likely than not, a good portion of those are not even people that are actually going to be interested in the property. It might not check the boxes. They're not going to be putting in offers. That's just a lot of phone calls for ultimately uninterested people.
Right. It's exhausting too when you're trying to field all that. And you have agents, they get mad at you if you don't return the call in a couple hours, but you're fielding other calls. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And then on top of it, if you're going to be holding open houses and you have new people through, it just sounds exhausting when you're playing out the scenarios in your mind how this can go.
Well, something you said there, Sarah, and I think that there's, it's very interesting how this works out, because I've been on the listing side as much as more than I've been on the buyer side, and I've been on both a lot of, sold thousands of homes. When buyer agents say, I can't believe the agent's not calling me back. When the information is readily available on the MLS of what's going on, you can't call everyone and say, give us your best price, give us your best terms, because that's just not scalable. You don't have the time to do that. And if you want to do any sort of volume in this business, systems are the way to go, right? Think about the one of the biggest sales, like think about a concert ticket sale, right? Or like the World Series. Were the Philadelphia Phillies returning calls about how to get Philadelphia Phillies World Series tickets? No, they had a notice on their website that said follow these instructions and you're going to get them. So that's how big businesses work. And then all of a sudden, these same agents that complain, then they complain that too many people are calling them on the other side. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
And that's just someone that's working from a scarcity mindset, because they're looking at what I can do to make a sale here. So there's a lot to talk about with this. I'll give you some advice from out of the industry. I talked to two people that are in the financial and legal world, asking. I mean, this was like the stuff that was happening all week. I'm getting text messages from people I know. One of them's in the financial world, and the response was, you know how it is. It's you've been no different than your business and other disruption. And he said, yeah, we've been under pressure for years. Maybe good in the long run for the business, gets rid of a lot of competition that doesn't have scale or experience. So I think that's a positive here that could happen. Another comment that I got, and let me pull it up here. Maybe much needed, clean out all the weekend realtors. And this is unsolicited. So the folks that think like I can do this part-time, or I'm smart enough to do this and have another job, well, guess what? You don't have the time to do it. You don't have the commitment to do it. You don't have the drive to do it. Because I'm not hiring a part-time surgeon. I'm not hiring a part-time accountant. I'm not hiring a part-time attorney for sure. This is going to be, maybe this is a good thing for consumers in the long run. And commercial real estate has operated this way for years. So it's not like this is something that hasn't happened. So we've been talking a good 30 minutes about this. What other parting thoughts do you have on what we know right now about this NAR settlement?
Again, we have 2 points. The fees cannot be published on the MLS, and that definitely starts mid-July. And before showings, buyers have to have a buyer agency contract in place.
Yeah.
So focus on your business.
Yeah.
Really focus on honing your skills. If you have to sit down with an agent partner and role play, go through the contracts, make sure you have a clear understanding of how to explain the contract. You're going to get a lot of questions. There's some people that you might be able to snow and just breeze through it quickly, that they have as much understanding as you might have. But there's people that are going to dive deep.
Oh yeah.
They're going to give you some hard questions.
Yeah.
And the more confidence that you have and the more you're able to clearly explain things, they're going to feel confidence in you and in your knowledge and how you can help them moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think just as more concrete information comes out, we'll take it and work with it. But until then, there's no point in completely spinning when we don't know the rest of the details yet.
Yeah, and what I look at is, I think you got to do a SWOT analysis on your business. We talked about this yesterday, where agents and you guys were there in the room. People were asking questions, and my first question is, how strong is your appointment? And if you can't rate it a 4 out of 5, because I don't think you can ever get to a 5. That's just my opinion. If you're not confident in your appointment, you better practice it. You better know your scripts. You better be able to talk about things if you were to ask me something, Sarah, I need to be able to answer it right now, no question about it, and then figure out what the best way to go is. So you got to look at, is my presentation strong enough? Am I getting the right expert advice? Because there is a lot of noise out there, Stacy. Committing to a standard of service. I think a lot of agents have gotten lazy, unfortunately, and they wait for people to come to them. You've really got to work on behalf of your clients. And on top of that, can you review what you do differently? Do you know the minimum, and do you know what you do, which is a big difference? Can you explain all the paperwork and the documents? Don't be afraid of the buyer agency contract. That's going to protect you in a lot of cases. And don't defend here. This is about education. If you start defending this decision was wrong, or it doesn't make sense, you've lost me, right? Because then you've made it about yourself and not about the consumer. When you make it about them, and we talk about this all the time, that's going to be where people want to use you because you're focused on their needs. So all of those things are going to matter, and training and skills are going to matter. It's not about a volume of lead flow anymore. It's how can you execute with the people you get in front of, and you two know that probably better than anybody. And it's that's going to be where this goes. So on that note, let's take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the upcoming Fed meeting. We've got some presidential news, all sorts of stuff going on. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Mortgage service and great rates on your money? Look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating
We have a guest
in
coming in
greater
next week. Kevin was
Philadelphia
going to come today. I
area
know I
for
do. This is
40
like an
years
update
with a
coming.
focus on smooth,
plenty to talk
easy
about.
access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized, local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender, NMLS 128501.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30 plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it, 1 minute, statescholarshipprogram.com, or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers in
30 seconds.
As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income?
10 seconds.
Call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacy Mitchell. She's Sarah Timon. And we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we just covered the NAR $418 million commission settlement. Now we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve meeting coming up. All of a sudden, this became like second page news here, even though it's a big deal given what rates have done over the past week or two. And apparently there's a speech going on today in Las Vegas with President Biden where he's going to talk about some additional remarks about the policies and priorities of his administration's push to address housing issues for renters and for buyers. So if you get some value out of this, make sure to click on the bell for notifications to keep up to date on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to schedule a call with one of these two ladies about your real estate needs, click on the link in the comments to get a time booked. So the Fed meeting is happening. Like this is like not even on people's radar right now, which is insanity to me because I think there is some big impacts here, especially knowing these NAR changes aren't happening until the third quarter. And we've seen rates kind of dance around a little bit and get into the high sixes. So the Fed meets later this week. I think the meeting might have started today, actually. And, we've got a couple things happening. We've seen rising inventory. We've seen rates settle in and then kind of jump back up into, today, what are we seeing, like 6.75%? We're seeing prices continue to rise here. What do you think the Fed does right now? I mean, demand has been slower than some people would have expected. new listings are starting to bubble up. I mean, this is very interesting, and I think the Fed's in an interesting spot because people thought, at least my view was, people thought rates were going to keep coming down, and then they bumped back up 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and they've been solidly in the sixes locally. So what are your predictions for the Fed meeting this week? What do you think happens?
I kind of don't think that they're going to raise or lower anything. I think they're just going to kind of like stay where they are. I don't think they're going to make any adjustments.
Okay.
I agree with that. I don't think they're going to move anything. I honestly feel that, or believe that they are not happy still with the inflation.
Mhm.
There's a lot of upset people about the inflation. They're pushing back no matter how hard people are told that prices are coming down. They're not seeing that. So the inflation is still a big factor.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to hold steady. I don't think the Fed's going to make any moves.
The stats agree. So the CME FedWatch tool has a 99.0% chance that nothing happens at the Fed meeting. 1% chance they lower rates. I would hammer that 1% and short that pretty aggressively because I don't think that's going to happen either. What I see happening is I think the big question is how's this going to impact inventory? Because despite inventory rising, it's still a big problem. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Huge. It's
Tell us more about it, Stacy.
The way that I'm seeing homes go under contract so quickly, we're back to sight unseen offers getting accepted. And we're not talking about just $500,000 homes. These are $1.5 million homes, sight unseen. You know, and who knows where the offer went for them to pull it off the market before it even starts showing.
Yeah.
And we're back to double digit multiple offers.
Yep.
Like ridiculously over asking, waiving everything. That's where we are on all price points.
Yep.
There's no price point that is immune to this.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it very much is back to you need to get out there like day one and be prepared for the agent to reach out and say like, here's the offer deadline. And along with that, you know, you've easily got 5, 10, 15 offers in.
And it's okay. Case study. There was a property offer deadline was Monday at 9.
Mm-hmm.
14 offers. 8 of them were cash. So my client thought he was a big deal because he had a cash offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which typically cash is very
Well, it eliminates appraisal issues. That it's not just about the money.
all right. Right. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. But I was told by the listing agent, okay, 14 offers, but he said, in all honesty, there was a lot of financing that were very compelling.
Yeah.
Very competitive with those cash offers. Ultimately, they did choose cash offer, but I don't even know where it landed. I asked him for, I threw out a number. Did it go north of that? And he said yes. So I kind of had an idea.
Yeah.
Not close to where my client wanted to go. So we're back to that crazy of 2020.
Yep.
That's what I feel like. We're in that mix.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is very competitive again.
It's incredibly difficult to get offers accepted right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I view this, and I don't know that it's 2020. This is the spring market because the spring market is always like this historically. I mean, you would see multiple offer situations happen there, and the reality is there's a plan to get these things accepted, right? You know what you can do, and if you can articulate that to people, that's how you get an offer accepted. This really demonstrates what we talked about, that if you can't explain that up front, well, this is where the buyers maybe win, because let's say they meet with 2 agents. They meet with one of you two when you explain everything, and meet with somebody else who says, yeah, I'll let you in the houses, email me when you want to see it. There's no strategy being discussed. They're trying to win on personality. That's where a good agent would win. A knowledge broker would win. So I think that does benefit consumers in that regard. Now, we are running ahead of last year in terms of inventory. Last week, we saw 59,000 new single-family listings come to market, and new listing volume has run ahead of last year, and we're seeing more sellers than last year. And there's 24% more new listings than the same week last year. So that's a pretty big bump. I anticipate in the Northeast we're going to see that climb as the weather breaks here and we get into the spring. That's normally what happens. So I'm pretty optimistic there, and if rates do come down a little more, we're going to see even more inventory come to the market. Although it seems like people are just accepting of where rates are at this particular juncture. So I don't see the Fed doing anything differently here, and it really shows that we don't have a buying problem, we've got a selling problem, which leads me to the Biden speech, right? That with the did you guys we talked about this. We watched the State of the Union where they have the plan to offer the $10,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit over a 2-year period. So apparently today, and this I don't know if this has happened yet or not, the president's going to use his remarks in Vegas to encourage Congress to support his housing agenda, according to the White House's National Economic Advisor and Director of the National Economic Council. This person, his name's Leo, it might be a woman, I don't know, Leo Brainerd. The housing affordability crunch for renters and would-be homeowners has been years in the making, and the previous administration did not take action to address it. The president will highlight his comprehensive housing plan and call on Congress to make the bold investments that are critical to lower housing costs for millions of Americans. And apparently this is going to cost $185 billion. Great. Like, that's more debt. Sounds awesome. And they would aim to unlock the housing market by implementing this $10,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit. I'm not clear that's what needs to be unlocked. We've got plenty of buyers. We need inventory unlocked. So does this pass, number one, and I'm not wanting to get political here, but this really affects our business. Does this pass, number one, and two, is this going to help anything?
Yeah, I mean, I know that we spoke about this a bit last week on the show, and we talked about how inventory needs to be unlocked and how, we spitballed a couple of different things that have been effective either for other countries or just different situations that could help us unlock inventory here. I would hope that as he's pushing for this, somebody else would bring this up and say, actually, like, this is going to make things worse. Like, this is a way that we could kind of pivot and effectively move the housing market along in a beneficial way. But I don't know if somebody would stand up and say that. I don't know if that's a good thing they can do.
I think somebody's going to stand up and say it, and it's going to be somebody on the other side of the aisle, unfortunately. I mean, to me, this is like, we don't need more buyers right now.
Yeah. And we don't need more debt right now.
And I'm not going to touch the debt for a lot of reasons, but right. In 2008, which I've been through, and there was nobody buying houses then. Like, I mean, it was like, okay, we're gonna wait for prices to go down. If you got an offer, it was like, wow, we better close this freaking thing, because if we don't, we're in trouble. And I was carrying 40, 50 listings personally.
Jeez.
Right? That's how slow it was. Like, I want to give you guys some perspective here.
You had your pick of homes out there.
And I would spend about 4 hours on a Thursday calling every single seller, telling them, hey, this is what's going on, because there wasn't a lot of activity. It was, you had to, manage a big inventory. Now, that was an extreme, right? Mm-hmm. So if there was a capital gains incentive, maybe a tax incentive for someone to sell, like, they do have that as part of the plan, but it's not really being talked about. There, some changes to local zoning laws to allow for more affordable housing to be built. There's a lot of things here that would go a long way. More buyers and incentivizing renters is not the strategy. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, what do you two think?
I think that's a bad strategy, actually.
Right.
I think that the sellers have to have the incentives.
Mm-hmm.
They have the incentives to sell. And we talked about the mom and pop investors that might have 1 or 2 properties that they're utilizing as rentals.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be big incentive for those folks.
Right.
To unload their properties. Because right now, if they do, they're going to get hit with capital gains.
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't want to do that.
Right.
For many reasons. But I think if you offer them an incentive to loosen up their holdings,
mm-hmm.
there's a whole, because they have, I know the rumor out there is that these big institutions are buying up all these properties, and that's not true. The mom and pops have the majority of the investment properties.
Right.
So that's exactly where these incentives need to be focused on those folks, alleviating some of those capital gains for a period of time, so they're not hit hard with that. They're probably, maybe they want to retire, you know what I mean, but they don't want to have to, give half their money away to the government. So I think that would help the inventory situation even more so, but having more buyers in this super hyper competitive market is definitely not the answer. And this is exactly why the home prices keep going up, keep driven higher and higher and higher, because each time a buyer or a house goes under contract at that 50,000 plus higher, that's your new comp.
Yep.
And then lo and behold, that buyer can't even buy anymore because they've been priced out.
Right. Like, I mean, like, if inventory isn't unlocked and we have the same amount of inventory, but now you're giving buyers more cash to go in with, all it's going to do is, you know, they're going to throw all of that towards it, raise up the prices, and it's not going to do anything. Like, they're still not going to be able to compete because everybody will have that, you know? Like, I mean, not everybody, but everybody that, like, can qualify for the incentive. But, right, like, inventory is the issue.
So, you know, and then here's like the comments. This is what worries me when I read through this. So, one of the president's advisors say, we know housing affordability is a key challenge in Nevada. That's why the president's agenda will really help address. So that's fine. Totally get that. And then they go on to say, we need to build. Fine, I agree with that. We know that we need to increase housing supply to ensure we can bring down the rents and the cost of home ownership, and that this is the premier objective of this administration, building more units and increasing affordability. But you know, when you look at that and you read through this, they're not doing anything to increase inventory. I mean, this plan to unlock like a $10,000 tax credit with starter homes. Well, guess what? You haven't even seen how many first-time home buyers are out there that are going to buy these starter homes. I mean, that's the issue here. And you know, the thing that's happening is that there's not something that's super clear in terms of here's what to do. Here's how to get more inventory on the market. There's no seller incentive here. If you got a 3% rate, why would you want to move?
Right. Yeah, that too. Yeah. Because you can't take it with you.
I mean, I feel
And
like
you're
that is
gonna
so
double it.
genius if you could, you know, like.
That would be definitely something that could be a major incentive for people to move. Maybe they take the mortgage that they already have at that certain amount with them to their new property.
Right.
And then whatever that other, if they need to
Right,
bridge
then that
the
would be at
difference
the
of the
other
purchase
rate,
price.
and-
Exactly.
yeah.
That would be at the new rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need some creative thinking, which, you know,
Yeah.
it's lacking.
Is
in our
lacking.
government.
Is lacking.
You know, I don't totally agree that you know, they're blaming the previous administration here. You know, a lot of this stuff happened after I mean, when did they go into office? 2021? Like, I mean, the rates were brought down so much and they didn't raise them quick enough, which caused this problem in the first place. And then 2021, everyone was just like, well, we're buying a house, screw it. We got all this disposable income. I mean, and there's some people that moved their timetable up, which I think was, you know, one of the factors. So, you know, this plan is just not in line. And then they go on to talk about here that it's the guy's name's Tandon. I don't know who that is. Let's look this up here to see who they're talking about. So no, Neera Tandon, a domestic policy advisor to President Biden, says we know affordability. Where are we going? Here we go. This person explained that the president will discuss ways to lower costs and increase supply during his remarks, saying that the administration is laser focused on affordability. I want to hear what they're going to do to increase supply. Like, if they have a plan for that, I am all ears, because I am very pro inventory right now. More inventory, this NAR settlement, you're going to see more sellers cooperate if they're competing against more inventory. The reason they don't is because they're getting 26 offers on a home, or there's all this competition. There's 8 cash offers coming in. That's easy for sellers to say, hey, I'm not going to compensate buyer's agents. But in a market like 2008, you had to compensate those people, right? And I think that's the reality of this. And so that's number one. And then number two, like, if they can do something locally to open up zoning, I look around a lot of places where we live. Think about where our office is. How much green space is there? If they were willing to open that, and there's been some new developments, but if some of these townships would ease up their zoning restrictions a little bit and maybe allow for some townhomes to be built, or maybe give some tax incentives to builders so they can make money on these, because they don't make a lot of money on them right now.
Right.
Like, that's the things that we're really dealing with. And the average price of new construction is between $800,000 and $1.25 million in the suburban markets right now.
Yeah.
That's not a first-time buyer.
Right.
Maybe like the 40-year-old doesn't own anything and finally got married and is having a kid in like 10 seconds because they know that they have to. Like, that's so. there's a lot of things happening here that aren't getting addressed, and a $10,000 tax credit is like a drop in the bucket for these people.
I agree. Yeah, we do. Well, in our area, we have a lot of preservation. So, I don't know how that's circumvented.
Right.
Because that's been generations in the making for the most part.
Mhm.
But there's a push for, moving more west and south,
Mhm.
as far as new construction. But yes, there's some townships that are way more strict than others with their construction. I think some of the loosening would be definitely beneficial.
Sure.
But single family homes, not new construction, like Tom said, there's no first time home buyer single family home new
Right.
construction.
Right.
That is a unicorn.
Yeah.
That does not exist
Right.
in what we call affordable.
Well,
pricing.
they're probably not going to build that though either. I mean, let's be real.
Right.
I mean, building a 1,200 square foot single family home doesn't do the job. Now, maybe you build a 2,500 square foot townhome
Yeah.
that could work for a lot of people. Maybe there's some one level properties, or maybe a first floor master in those, but
Right.
that's the kind, or maybe like a mixed use with some retail underneath, right? Like you saw, and there's more and more of those developments happening, but that's really the stuff that needs to be built right now. I don't think you're going to see affordable single family homes.
No.
But if you can do townhomes and condos and those sort of things, that can be a little more effective.
Yeah.
Right. And then in conjunction with giving sellers incentive to
Mhm.
move, that would like between the two, that would open up a lot of possibilities
More,
for people.
yes.
Yeah.
So, do you think they're going to deliver at the speech today? Is this speech going to have Stacy is a hard no on this.
You didn't even answer. You didn't even finish your statement. I'm like, no, ain't happening. It's election season. That's all.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, they're going to say whatever they want to get elected, and then all of a sudden it's like, we changed our mind. Sorry
Right.
about that. So, and that's every politician, no
Yes.
matter who they are. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack here. So, we've got these things happening with, the Fed meeting. I don't think the Fed does anything, and that's going to be like back page news. That would be one of the things we talk about the most. But with this NAR settlement, it just doesn't. It's it's dwarfed by that. So looking at this NAR settlement, or just people that are listening, whether you're consumers or you're an agent, what should you be thinking about as you head into the week here? I mean, it's Tuesday afternoon. It's March 19th. I see that there's a lot of time left, but we're getting into the second quarter here too. So if you're a client thinking about transacting, or you're an agent looking to do a lot of business over the next 3 months, what advice do you two have, having been in this business, been through a global pandemic? What do you say?
I would just continue to focus
Yeah.
on your business.
Yeah.
Like, do what you do. Reach out to your folks that you've been talking to. Make sure that you have a clear motivation. What are they looking for? Why are they wanting to move? If they're sellers, just reach out and see. You don't have to start any unnecessary conversations.
Mhm.
But if they bring it up, know how to answer their questions.
Yep.
But just continue to nurture your clients.
Yeah, I mean, I would say exactly that. Move forward with your business. Things are not halting right now, and surround yourself either with, people that know what's going on and can help kind of guide you for the changes if, when, how they come into play, so that you are not caught off guard, so that you can honestly and accurately answer questions as they come up. But also, yes, there's no reason to scare people, or we're just gonna have to see what happens next. But make sure that you are able to get that information and able to ask questions and be able to be informed.
They're going to continue to buy and sell.
They certainly are, and if you show value, they're going to use you. I mean, it's no different than getting LegalZoom versus having an attorney. I mean, you can do this stuff yourself. I didn't do my estate docs myself. I probably would have screwed them up. So that's how I look at this here. Real estate agents, don't abandon your business plan. Focus on the stuff that's going to help you sell houses. That's the best advice you can have in any one of these things. And that's certainly what we did during the pandemic, and it worked out pretty well for you too. So on that note, we're out this week. You want to follow Sarah? She's at Ty_Ty Time on Instagram. You can follow Stacy at the number 2 Mitchko. You can follow me at TomToole3RD. We'll be back next week on WWDB 860 AM. That's it for Toole Time Real Estate Radio.
There you go. Get up. Oh, passport.
Hi, this
comes
is Carol
through
Holloway
the
from
last
Home Improvement
weekend.
Fix It
Oh,
Facts.
that's Easter
Listen to
weekend,
me
right?
live
Yes.
every
Last weekend of
Tuesday
March.
morning
Oh, so
from
you're
8 to
so
9
you're
right
around?
here at WWDB. And if you
I'm
can't
scheduling a lot
listen
of listing
live,
appointments
make
and
sure
then
you
make
go
sure,
to
like, I'll just check your calendars.
www.dbam.com
Assuming they're
and
updated.
listen
It's
to my
it's
podcast.
Saturday and Sunday.
Each week,
so
we will
Oh,
give
alright.
you
Friday
great
I'm good.
ideas on
Alright.
how to fix your home and some facts on how
I'll
to put it
update
all
my
together.
calendar. But
Why do some of the biggest names from coaches to authors to athletes and executives talk to the heart of sports?
What you guys do is so valuable. The issues you raise are what so many more people should be thinking about. Plus, you guys
Alright, so you're not going to we got to schedule the stuff for Waverly too. Once I hear back from about the second loan payoff, so I'll just think we'll build it out after.
during this crazy time, so I really appreciate the support.
That's
Maybe we just
the
do everything
heart of
like in
sports
April.
with Jason
Stretch it all
Springer and
out.
Jeff Cohen each and every Friday
So you're
here on
going-
WWDB
Sarah, you're going the last weekend in April on the 28th?
860 AM.
Join us on Food
Yeah.
Farms and
Alright.
Chefs radio show, where we
Mhm. We'll do
highlight
the open house maybe the
everyone
weekend
from
before.
top industry leaders to startups and the farmers
Christ,
who
after
make
all
it
this, that's even a bigger
possible
deal than
with
it was
co-hosts
before.
Gene Blum and Amaris Pollock, with original episodes that debut every Tuesday at 6 p.m. on WWDB 97.5 HD2 and at WWDBAM.com and on your smart
This
speaker.
reminds me just like when COVID, when like everything shut down, people like running around like doing all these freaking like it's like the same
Pennsylvanians
thing.
are living with brain injury, and it is estimated that up to 50% of
Although,
those persons have a
At least
history
90%
of
of real
substance
estate.
misuse.
It's still going.
If you or someone close to